The golden rule. Now, this is probably content for the oldest joke known to man when it comes to healthcare. But it's so important. If you have recently developed a spinal complaint or some sort of injury, okay? Let's just say low back pain and neck pain. Those are the most common two that I see as a chiropractor. So let's say you developed them recently. You haven't seen a health professional yet. You don't know what to do when you're at home, okay? Or you're under treatment at a chiropractor, a physiotherapist, an osteopath, you're under medication or seeing an orthopedic surgeon, whatever it is. I want you to understand the golden rule. And it's so simple, like I said, that it's probably the oldest healthcare joke known to man. And that is, anything that makes your back pain worse, minimize or eliminate, avoid. And anything that seems to help, do more of it. Maximize it, optimize that. Okay, for example, I can't tell you how many times I've ran into a patient at reception before their appointment, noticed them sitting, and then when they're in my office, just a few minutes later, I ask them, what seems to make your problem worse? And they say, sitting down. And then my eyebrows kind of make this funny shape when I say, why are you sitting? And then their husband or wife says, yeah, I told them so, Because think about it. That patient was probably sitting at home, sitting in the car ride on the way to the clinic, sitting in reception, sitting at my desk, and probably, if I hadn't mentioned the golden rule, would be sitting all the way home and at home, right? So it sounds so basic, guys, but just think about it, right? Every time you aggravate your condition, your body's giving you a signal telling you what to avoid doing. And every time you aggravate it, you re-injure it to some level, right? So it sounds so basic. Now let's look at the other end of it. If there's something that seems to help, like lying down or rest or walking, for example, you want to do more of that. You don't want to do so much of that that you you injure yourself and overdo it. But for example, let's say walking is helping. So what you do is you walk for 10 or 15 minutes or so, just a small number. Like just a few minutes, and you test it. This is what rats do. I'm not a big fan of rats in terms of, being my favorite animal or anything, but there is something I appreciate in what they do from what I learned somewhere along my journey, and that is that when they come across a potential food item, they consume a small piece, and then they fast for 24 hours. Now, that's hard for me to believe, because they probably would encounter some sort of food that in that 24-hour period that they probably can't resist. But let's say this is accurate and they fast for 24 hours, or at least a period of time. And what they do is, if they didn't fall ill as a result of it, they know it's edible and they go back. They add it to their list of, add it to their menu, so to speak, right? And obviously, if it makes them sick, they avoid it. So same thing in this early stage of care, or when you have a flare-up. Anytime you're doing something that makes it better, don't do too much of it. Just sample it and just see if it doesn't make you worse. If it's making you better, it didn't make you worse, then you can extend it a little bit, because walks may help, but maybe it's only under 10 minutes. Does a 20-minute walk help? Don't just jump from 10 to 20 minutes. Just add 5 minutes, and then just gradually do the things that are helping more and more and more, especially when you're reintegrating yourself into exercising and fitness. I know a lot of people, when they're not feeling well and injured, what's worse than the injury is their frustration and their impatience, and that often leads to them going back into their activities and re-injuring themselves. Okay? So the golden rule, do more of what makes it better and less of what makes it worse. And just pay really close attention, especially when it comes to spinal complaints and neuromusculoskeletal, nerve, muscle, bone complaints, about what particular moves to do and not to do. Okay? So for example, you're lying in bed and you got a really bad neck, and you turn to the right side and it makes it worse. But you want to change position because you've been on your back for so long that you feel like you need a shift. You turn to the left and it feels better. You go left. right? You might find that, for example, when you turn to the left, it makes it worse. So if you're sitting at the office or you're sitting socializing or at home, make sure people are not on your left. Make sure they're on your right so that you're turning to your right more. Now, you don't want to be doing that too long either, right? Because that could turn into a complaint. So again, guys, the golden rule is really easy. Minimize, eliminate, avoid the things that are making it worse. I know some things you can't avoid, but just minimize them as much as you can. And just a quick note, I know a lot of you guys, it's worse with sitting and you have an office job. You literally got to put a table on top of a table, a chair on top of a table, something. You got to set up your workstation so you're standing if possible. And your breaks will be sitting periods as opposed to the other way around. All right? If you find that some things are helping you, again, do more of that. But don't do too much that you overdo it. All right? Don't forget the golden rule, and hopefully you have a speedy recovery.